Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. It's not telling me we're live completely yet, but I'm just going to kind of go with it. I think we are. And I have one of my absolute favorite guests with me today. She's like an international spiritual superstar, I would say. Like we have with us Solreta Antaria. She's a galactic communicator, spiritual guide, and multidimensional experiencer known for her cosmic perspective on consciousness, ascension, and humanity's evolving relationship with the greater universe. Her work centers on starseed awareness, energetic alignment, and decoding higher frequency information to help individuals navigate awakening in an increasingly complex world. Through her teachings, Solreta explores themes such as galactic origins, soul missions, timeline shifts, frequency upgrades, and the information of higher dimensional wisdom in everyday life. She emphasizes through discernment, sovereignty, and embodied awareness as humanity moves through periods of rapid energetic change. Solreta shares her insights through sessions, writings, and appearances across alternative media space, offering a grounded yet expansive perspectives on disclosure, contact experiences, and collective evolution. And her website is solreta.com, and I put her links in the description. And I'd like to give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Solreta, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
You're so sweet, Rob. Thank you. That is just the most beautiful introduction and yeah, really touching. And I can see some of my soul tribe here in the chat as well. So I just want to say hey to you guys and thank you for joining us both. Yeah, thank you for having me back. It's been a little while, so it's nice to catch up.
Yeah. So for people who might not have heard you, or might like, wait, what? How did your story start with all this? Like, did you have contact experiences growing up, from what you can remember, or
Yeah,
did you paranormal or anything like that?
Yeah, so a full spectrum of different types of contact. So for me, being clairvoyant from birth, I would say that my interactions in the world were very different from a lot of other people or a lot of other kids my own age and their interactions. So with me also going on to teach about how to see auras and working in the spiritual field, I've sort of come to know that it's not something that everyone gets to experience, seeing different beings or having interactions with UFOs and different things. And it was interesting, just as I was getting ready this morning for work, just getting downloads around like where spirit would really love to guide us as well for today's show. And so much of, I guess, like what we're seeing here and, in the news and everything, a lot is put on terms of like the external and external validation or like waiting for an external force to come in and be like, hey, this is like happening, this is true. And I feel like in the UFO community, and you're quite deep in that UFO community yourself, it's like there's still a lot of people, we're seeing evidence, we're having interactions, we're having craft show up, things like that, beings appear, we're having sort of like semi-spiritual experiences or transcendental experiences and things too. So I think so much of like what we're looking for externally as a collective at the moment, if we really peel it back and come back to that inner child and that part of us that actually had our spiritual senses and gifts switched on from such a young age, I feel that we're coming more back to the actual truth of what kind of reality we're living in. So I'm a big person for saying, we need discernment. So yeah, I know that's sort of sideways segues from what we were talking about, but I just feel it's such an important message that Spirit wanted to bring today, that we really need to start getting back to the basis and the foundation of who we are as spiritual beings and try and close out to a lot of the external distraction and noise.
I love that. I love that. And when did you first start realizing that you were connected to like a grander multidimensional awareness? I guess you could call it that.
Yeah,
Like throughout
I think
your whole life.
no, from about 4 years old. So around 4 or 5 years old, there was messages from spirit saying, just be careful, like who you talk to about this side of things, or things that you see. There was a very protective energy that I had from spirit and from guides in terms of them saying, you might get locked up in a crazy home if you talk about this stuff. It's not something everyone experiences. And quite often I would have friends say, what are you looking at? In high school, if I'm sort of looking at their energy, because it was probably around later high school that I had started talking about seeing auras or started talking about colors. I had one friend who could see like prana energy with me. And so we would, sit there and look at things, but there really wasn't many people that understood it. It was kind of more, seen as a party trick because I didn't have a guidebook. I didn't have someone show up at that young age and say, hey, this is what this color means in an aura, or this is what it means when there's a mandala literally just appear in your bedroom in the middle of the night. And, you know, you run into your parents' room and you're telling them these things. They're like, oh, it's just a dream. Go back to sleep. And it's like, no, I wasn't asleep. It literally was like a portal kind of mandala that opened up in my room. So I think from looking at my soul mission and also understanding my astrology chart and looking at the interactions that I have in the world and what just kind of magnetizes to me, I know that I'm on a bigger mission in terms of bridging the gap between our physical and spiritual world. So I really vibe with a lot of ancient teachings of theosophy, a lot of what Rudolf Steiner taught about and spoke about. He would not be describing it that way unless he actually had those clairvoyant faculties developed. So I really look to what matches what I was born into this world with. So his writings and teachings really, he wouldn't be teaching or talking about, you know, letters and flames and other kind of like clairvoyant things that only those that are going through that or have got those faculties switched on would know about. The Keys of Enoch is another one. The J.J. Hurtak, I think he's like a 3 times PhD. That is an amazing book that I've got sitting over in the other side of the room. So yeah, with the multidimensional side of it, that word that you use really encompasses what it is that we are. And we're taught that we only use 10% of our brain. We're taught that we are just physical beings. And when we actually look at it from a quantum physics point of view, this is actually not how we really create change and shift in the world. It's really from that inner faculty, creating that vision, holding that thought, that feeling, that emotion. So I'll give you like a little description around how we create our reality, because I think this is a big part of actually a lot of rebels. They sort of stood up for what was happening over the last couple of years and gave a bit of a pushback to the narrative that was, I guess, like what was it, 3 or 30 trillion propaganda. I forget how much they spent on trying to program, you know, the world. So if we look at things from that point of view, where we're having our external reality programmed for us, if we can quieten that noise, come back to center and actually start saying to ourselves, we are multidimensional beings, we are a spiritual being having a physical experience, and really come back to the quantum entanglement that we have with this plasma world that we live in, because like 98 point something percent of what I'm touching right now is plasma. So this is where a lot of multidimensional beings will actually come and anchor into our reality. Not quite in the third dimensional reality. If you are looking at them, sometimes they are looking like a veiled type being, which that's in the Rudolf Steiner instilled paintings, the veil paintings. You'll see it's like crystalline, translucent dimension upon dimension upon dimension. So we can really kind of like rewrite what it is to be a soul or a human experiencing the physical reality. We actually start to look at the world from a different lens. So a lot of the Vedic cultures and scriptures, even some of like the Chinese systems as well, look more into the chi prana life force. So if we can start coming back to, you know, scripting within and really starting to reprogram our brain and our subconscious mind, this is how we open that door to actually start to perceive things on that multidimensional level. So for example, I think the last show that we did, or maybe the one before, we spoke about fairies and we showed some of my footage of fairies that have come into videos and spoke about some of those interactions. So those beautiful beings will actually, from someone who studied a lot of mediumship that I know, she told me that when we see fairies or you have like ETs and things that show up around certain people, that it's actually the beings that are utilizing the plasma field around the psychic or around the medium. And that's how they're able to kind of like pop into our spectrum where we either see them in the physical. It's how they sort of show up in the camera. So yeah, if we can work on our aura, work on our energy field, we're actually going to start to open up this gate to the multidimensional world. But we need protection. So we need to say only if it's for my best and highest good, or only if these beings love me unconditionally. So that's like one of the most important things to put out there, that we have that little caveat on the work that we're connecting with.
I agree. And what if you do if you have like negative entity attachments? Like, do you deal with that as well? People who get like negative attachments and stuff like that?
Yeah. So this is like something I'm obsessed with, like the ongoing study to do with this, because I really feel And I've been shown it in so many different types of sessions. So I've read for people that work at NASA, SpaceX. I've also worked for lawyers, doctors, film producers, people like this. So I've really had a chance to connect with some interesting people, and the information that channels or comes through is interesting in terms of there's certain technology that Spirit is giving us downloads for on things that can be built to actually provide like I would say it's like a protective net, a physical device that can actually be built to protect from any of these spiritual or lower astral entities coming into our reality. So there's technology. There's a couple of things. I did see something on Etsy that someone was claiming that helped to provide a little bit of I guess, a protective net. Thank you for popping my link up for my website. And I forgot to mention, I also have 20% off, which I don't usually do, but it's like a little Christmas gift to everyone. So the code's magic20 for anyone wanting to book a reading and save 20% in December. But yeah, when we look at also the other aspect of parasites and entities, it's on a physical level. So the food that we eat, the water that we drink, who we hang out with as well, because we also will get things come in from certain personalities or certain people that are more negative. You will have more astral attachments and things that are also happening. So at the moment, it's super important to actually be clearing and cleansing your aura every day. So if you're doing like frequency shifting, so what that is, and I think we may have touched on this in the last show, but just to give a reminder, it's closing your eyes, tuning into your body, and just seeing if there's a certain color or frequency that just comes up. It's whatever comes to mind first. And then you're just changing the pattern and color, almost as if you're actually changing your IP address. And so you're going offline to anything that could be attached in your aura, and you're actually like resetting yourself. So it's like, resetting your energy field. I love pranic healing. That would be one of my favorite things for pranic psychic cleanup that cleanses the aura, it cleanses the chakra. It's something I do in my holistic sessions as well. If anyone is needing a tune up, we're also looking for energies that are considered, I guess, like more dirty, and we're kind of psychically, aurically cleansing that. So that's really important. For those that really want to do something on a physical level, you can take a handful of salt and actually pop it over yourself in the shower. You are much better to soak in a bath with a lot of salt for 20 minutes, just because that will actually cleanse your aura too. In terms of if anyone is under greater spiritual warfare or psychic attack, in terms of like mental health or schizophrenia, things of this sort of nature, Jerry Mazinski has some incredible interviews out there looking at the commonality between trauma, and there's an identity that's created around certain traumas. And this is when these parasites or entities or voices and heads will actually come in and attach to the person. So if we can collapse that old trauma identity, we actually have nothing for these entities and parasites to cling on to. So the method he recommends is called MACE energy method, which is MACE. I've personally witnessed some clients and also people that I love go through sessions, and I've had sessions myself, and it's incredible watching just how clear everything is after sessions, and just like the noise level for people that really are having severe mental health things happen. It's just so interesting that even sometimes you'll have things that will be more of like Jerry describes like poltergeist type activity and things too, that there'll be like silence and the voices won't be able to get through to people with that. So yeah, spiritual warfare is real. It's across like a multitude of different dimensions, I would say, from that parasitic physical entity down to like psychic attack, astral attack. It's very important to also protect yourself in terms of before going to bed at night.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, that is really interesting. Like I've interviewed Jerry Marzinski before, and he mentioned that
Oh,
MACE method. Like, what is that exactly? Like, do you know like what exactly is it? Just like a form of energy healing, or like what would you say it is?
yeah.
Like,
So I would say it's more kind of based in psychology. So I think it was someone who worked for the Navy who was working with people that had PTSD. So I'm trying to think of his first name. His last name's Mace. I think he might have actually been an Aussie guy from the accent. But anyway, so you're literally looking into feelings and emotion. So when we talk about normal talk therapy, psychology, it's always reflecting and going back to the trauma. And what happens from a biological cellular level is that when you replay trauma and drama, your body, your survival system, your nervous system actually doesn't realize you're not reliving it in that moment. So what I love about Mace is it cuts through all that. You're not actually reliving it. It's just, all right, let's go into the feeling in the body. And so you're actually detoxing that feeling, that emotion out of the body. And so I won't give away like their secrets that they use in a session, because it's not something that you can do on yourself. It is recommended to have it with a practitioner, but essentially you're collapsing and dissolving that. And we know from quantum physics as well, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. There's a lot of other physicists that talk about this and spiritual teachers out there. So if we're focused on an emotion or we're focused on something, we actually attract and magnetize more of it. So if we can collapse that waveform or we can collapse that old identity, we're no longer vibrating in resonance with that old trauma. So we have a blank, clean slate in order to be able to pop in positive feelings and emotions of what it is that we do want to attract, who it is that we want to be in the world. So I'm a big one for talking about, creating new identities. I've also got some hypnotic subliminal meditations that I'm releasing in a couple of weeks. I'm just perfecting everything at the moment. And this is how we can actually change our life, change our reality, is through that subconscious reprogramming. But also at the same time, it is good to collapse the old identities that are keeping us small, keeping us in this unsafe, sheltered world. Because from our brains and the way that amygdala works, we won't actually go and do things that are challenging. We will stay in the comfortable because our brain's keeping us in that old caveman part of us is like, no, stay in the cave, stay in survival. And it's just, for our own protection. So we have to override that. We have to reset the default system. So they're things that I'm obsessed with.
I love that. And then what I was going to say is like, for people that are not necessarily having entity attachments, but like a lot of people are feeling like intense physical and emotional symptoms lately. Do you see that some people is having like ascension symptoms, or do you believe that's a thing, ascension symptoms?
Yeah, I do. I've seen it with dizziness and things. One way, let me see if I've got one of my aura drawings here at the moment. I know I had a gorgeous client that other day. Might have been in person.
Wait, can I ask you a question? Can you see my aura now? And is my aura okay? Like, I just got to ask you. Like, is it like can you see it? Like, can you like as soon as you look at someone?
Yeah, so for me, when I was a kid, I couldn't turn it off. It was like just seeing aura, seeing energy and things all the time, which was very, very distracting. It's a bit of a like ADHD thing where I'm like hyper attuned. Actually, ADHD, attention dialed into a higher dimension. So, for many of us operating or being distracted by that. So there's two ways that I teach how to see auras. And I do have that course over on Mason Jupiter. And they are a beautiful bunch of girls. So I've taught that over there. It's in their video series. But there's two ways to see. So there's through the third eye, which sometimes requires us to go into meditation or like into deeper stillness. And then we actually have, on a biological level, there's cones and rods that are within the eyes. So it's the peripheral vision that actually has I would say it's like the physical capabilities to see beyond that human spectrum that we're taught that we can see in. So we know that there's things like infrared, there's UV light. We can't see that on a human level, but what we can see is we can see things on a plasma level. So not always, it depends on like the frequency of which we are vibrating and the frequency of which this other stuff is vibrating. So some things on an astral level will sometimes vibrate into a denser physical level. So we will see, the dark shadow things, the hat men. I'm sure you've probably talked about things like that on other podcasts. So when I'm looking at an aura, what I'm seeing is with my physical eyes. So when I'm teaching someone to see it, it's usually the peripheral that we start to see it first. But when we get really good at it, we can see it head on. So you've got some interesting colors. It is a bit harder to see because you've got a darker atmosphere around you today.
My hat off. I don't know if that helps.
Oh no, it's just
why I did. I was wearing a hat, but yeah.
No, you look good. So I always say, like, lighting wise, working with tea light candles in a dimly lit room or working with a Himalayan salt lamp is like the perfect lighting for anyone wanting to practice this at home. Whether you're looking at a pet or you're looking at something against a blank wall is the easiest way to see. So you have some reds in your aura, which can be passion. It's connected to root chakra energy. It's a lot of available energy too. And you've also got some violet. So it's interesting. You've got a mixture combo, and there's some green too, which is heart energy. So if we're looking at that from, I guess, a chakra point of view, we've got root chakra energy, we've got heart chakra, and we've got crown chakra energy. So if we put this all together as a bit of a message, we've got around this side of you, which is your right hand side, sitting more out in the spiritual body. So we've got physical, we've got etheric, we've got the mental, emotional, astral, and spiritual bodies. You have this violet sitting more out in the spiritual. And around, I would say, sort of like the mental, emotional, it keeps flipping between green and red. So sometimes you'll get, because the aura is not just like a still photo where it's like, okay, it's like the same all the time. No, it's like a movie that's moving. Thank you, Lorianne. Yeah, got some gorgeous people in the chat. So thank you so much for joining us. I know it was a bit late notice on me posting on my side of things, but so happy to have you guys here. So yeah, when we actually start to look into it, I actually will look into the aura and draw the colors. Oh, this is probably a better way to describe it. So we can see here, I've drawn a physical.
That's beautiful, though. I love the way you draw that. That is beautiful.
I'll have to do one for you. I would love to do a reading for you sometime. And then we can maybe talk about it, and you can record it so you've got a copy of it. But yeah, so we look at like different colors showing up in the auric field. Sometimes you'll have different spiritual beings. So this person actually had a guide that's showing up from a higher multi-dimensional realm that's outside of our universe. Because some of these beings, like, we have to remember that we're not just quantumly entangled with the 3D reality or with our Andromeda galaxy. A lot of beings that are working with us, or even parts of our higher self, will reside in other universes. So for a lot of us that feel alone or different, or kind of like, I think I'm just here for like a short time, a lot of us don't even originate from the Andromeda galaxy. And then you get some souls that are quite comfortable here on Earth, or quite comfortable incarnating into Pleiades, Andromeda, the different star systems that we're a bit more familiar with. But for a lot of star seeds, especially, when we see someone that has like a higher dimensional guide, they more originate from outside of our galaxy, come in and experience multiple lifetimes, in different places, learning and gathering as much intel, information, healing information, and working, I guess, for more like the Galactic Federation side of things would be some people, not everyone, because everyone's so individual. It's hard to kind of encompass that into talking about it through one aura drawing. But yeah, sorry, I'm going segue.
No, I love it. It's really interesting. I find it so interesting. Like, and you know what that reminded me of? When you showed me that image, that reminded me of the Native American headdress. Like, how they have the Native American headdress, and it reminded me, like, I wonder if they made that like they were seeing auras as well. Like, and they're more kind of tapped in.
I never even thought of that. That's so interesting. Yeah, and there is a huge thing. If we look at like the native side of things, which is another thing I'm really interested in. So, from a native side of things, a lot of when we look at the Anunnaki and we look at them incarnating into the Middle East, we also see that they migrated down towards and went into the Native American bloodlines. So there are a lot of people, and also went into the Irish bloodlines, and there's a few other places as well. But we see that the people that carry some of these bloodlines have some of these more spiritual gifts switched on. So I myself had always felt an energy relationship with the Navajo. And then I found out I think it was last year, that my grandfather was actually part Navajo. So my cousin and uncle had always heard stories from my grandfather. We lived in a different part of town, so we didn't always get to connect in the same way. So yeah, it's really interesting that with what you were just saying, like with the aura and things too.
Yeah. So do you have relatives that are American, or like relatives in America?
Yeah. That's so really I actually cool. I feel really at home there. Two of my cousins lived there. And then my grandfather, so he was a US Marine and then came out here after World War II. So I've always kind of felt at home in the States. Yeah, I've got one of my best friends is in Arizona. So it can be really hard being away from family and gorgeous soul family in Vegas and other places.
You've come here a couple times, right?
Oh yeah, I've been quite a few times now. So I at one stage was trying to come every year. Then we had our lockdowns in Melbourne, Australia, which yeah put a pause on things for a while. But I was over there for a month last year. So I went to Mexico,
Wow.
went to Florida, Arizona, went out to Monument Valley, Navajo reservation, and it was incredible. This feeling of coming home and this feeling of just yeah, it's hard to put on just like a 3D words level, the feeling that you feel in your soul.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. Wow. So I'll go back to my questions here. Are starseed missions something that activate over time, or do you believe we're already born with them online? Right? Like, do you? But it seems like it's something that we kind of gradually kind of morph into if we're a starseed, or can it be both?
Yeah, so I've seen both. There's definitely children that you see that have these eyes, and you can just tell straight off. So they're often the ones that we refer to as old souls, or they just have this kind of like crystalline look to their eyes as well. And it doesn't mean like, that they have to be blue or green. You still see beautiful brown eyes, or even eyes that have like golden hues in that too. So it really just depends on the person. This is where I like to look to astrology too, because you can see it written in the chart. So I'm not an astrologer, I just have a bit of an obsession with it. But you will sometimes see what's called a yod in the chart. So I was speaking about this on a show that I did the other day, actually. So it's a 3% chance that we have a yod, which is known as a fingerprint of God. So in a chart, it shows up as a skinny triangle with a tall apex. And it's this energy that down the bottom of the apex is like this frustration, this feeling of there's something I'm here to do, this mission, or it's like when I crack the code to this, I'm going to share the answer with everyone and try and help wider humanity. So a lot of star seeds will have yods in their chart. They don't always sort of refer to themselves as star seeds, but they will feel that there's a mission. So quite often these souls will feel a little bit cut off from reality, or a little bit like the odd one out. And that's even if we're putting them into, spiritual places or conferences, they'll be able to connect and sort of feel held by people, or feel that there's like a kinship, but they still quite often will feel a little bit different from the norm. So there's a longing or a sense of homesickness that they have, and especially if we're talking about the ones that come in from other universes. So the ones that I see starseed wise that are more from the Andromeda galaxy, so more the common star places that we hear about, they'll have a homesickness, but it's not quite as strong as the homesickness we see from coming in from higher dimensional planes and realities. But yeah, coming back to the yod side of things, and I can see Lorianne saying the M like on the palm as well. So quite often you'll see like an M shape in palmistry, which is more to do with, I guess, the mystic path. It's more connected to do with star seeds and even like Archangel Michael. But yeah, if we're coming back to the yod side of things, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah,
hard to see in your light.
I have it on both, or on one of them.
Oh,
I
me
think.
too. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. So yeah, you find that like a lot of the audience will probably have it too, because your vibe attracts your tribe. So yeah, with the yod thing, there's a 3% chance of that fingerprint of God, that mission energy showing up. And it's like, that's the energy before we were born going, this is what I'm coming down here to do. So I do see that in the chart. I've got 3 of them in my chart. My astrology friends that are quite famous online are like, oh my gosh, I've never seen someone with 3 before. So what we also see like with human design charts as well, which are also based on like our birth time and city and everything, is you have certain, I guess you've got manifestors, generators. I don't know as much about this one, and projectors, reflectors. But what you'll see is some souls will actually be gathering information and data for the first half of their life, and then they'll come into leadership roles and things in the second half. So sometimes like with yeah, having a sense or a mission, you might feel this kind of like burning desire within you, or this feeling of there's something I'm here to do with the world. But as to predicting when that time's going to tick and go off, it's so different for everyone. Some are literally experiencing it in the earlier half of the life, and others are coming into it much later.
I agree. It's interesting. Let me see what other questions. And guys, if you have any questions for Solreta, put them in the chat. And let me see here. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask you about is, do you feel like different star lineages are kind of waking up right now to like different star seed, yeah, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I guess I've worked solely online to do with the starseed side of things. I first for over 10 years, like with clients, and before that in person as well. But when I first started talking about it publicly, I was 21. So I'm 45 now. So I've been talking about it for longer than a lot of people have been talking about it online. And it's always been a multitude of different, I guess, galactic star seeds. So it's more, I would say, it's not just like one particular group. It sometimes we'll have shows in that dedicated to be like, oh, today we're talking about the Pleiadians, or, the mantis beings. So it's the same as like how there's many cultures here on Earth and many different countries and many different races. It's the same with star seeds, but sometimes we'll hear things a little bit more in the news than we will other ones. So yeah, but there's different missions. Let me see if I'll just grab something to sort of demonstrate and show you guys a little bit more. So when we look into actually like one of my galactic sessions, so I do the aura drawing, and then we start to talk about what spirit's saying about the aura, and that's where I can, channel and go right in and bring the messages through. And it's so interesting because it's often word for word things that are happening in people's lives. Or if I'm doing relationship readings, we might pick up on like words that were said in a relationship, which just is, yeah, it's really, really interesting. So with this, I've got this little pie chart that I've made that is mainly our Andromeda galaxy. We've got some other things in here like higher dimensional or galactic angelic. I've also got Lemuria and Atlantis. Just these are things that Spirit prompted me to pop in because they come up a little bit more commonly. So if we're looking at this is us, my hand down here on the 3D dimensional reality, a lot of us have come in having had lifetimes here. So where we look at things as past, present, future in a linear sense, the correct way to look at it is actually more from a multidimensional sense, that these lifetimes are actually concurrently happening as we're having this one right now. So sometimes we'll hear about a star system, or we'll kind of get like a feeling around it. We might have visions or dreams around it. So I always say to my clients, I want you to trust yourself first. I want you to check in with your heart, with your information. And, I'll look in a session and have these things come up, different places. And we also use a pendulum to look into it, as well as like I'll get direct messages from Spirit talking about it. So they also get like a little Star Origins guide booklet that goes into a bit more information. We talk about it in a session. So this kind of helps us to look at from an oversoul level. And I've done some shows talking about the diamond oversoul energy. So if we imagine a beautiful, multifaceted diamond that has all these reflecting type energies, and then we have our soul plus the souls of each of these different places that we're from more kind of are in this oversoul multidimensional place. So if we look at us operating in this little body here, this is one facet of our soul. So if we go back and we connect to the oversoul or this diamond overlay, we're connecting to the parts of us that have had lifetimes in other places, other nations, other multidimensional realities, and some that don't even have 3D physical form. So it's so important to really go back to the origin of who we are when we separated from source. And sometimes this is as simple as connecting to going in, connecting to source, having a look at like the colors that you were. And sometimes these colors will actually give us a lot of information to do with our soul mission, where we're connected. So for example, me having more golden pink energy, when we look at it on here, it's more connected to Pleiadian energy. but I'll still get like Lyra and Syrian energy come up big time. And golden pink is very connected to heart chakra. It's very connected to more kind of living from that heart center and expressing from that heart center, expressing love, expressing more kind of like bliss energy. There's, for lack of a better word, there's an aura about Pleiadian energy that we have. And I don't mean it in terms of what we're sort of told that they have to be blonde, they have to be blue eyes, because that's just not true. We have beautiful Pleiadians that have the darkest skin, that have golden eyes. We have ones that have green eyes, that have more of like a medium tone, sort of Mexican, beautiful, like luminous skin. So yeah, this is really, I want everyone to come back to like what we said at the start of the show too, that there's so much that we've been hit with and programmed with. So a lot of my information and knowledge is things that I experienced on an inner level or a spiritual plane level from the age of a child. So I didn't have that guidebook teaching me how to see auras or teaching me how to translate energy. It's very much we see or feel or experience something. It's about going within and getting the download or the higher message. And then we can go to Google or check things.
Yeah, I have a question. I have Misha Johnson that comes on my show too, and she kind of does some similar, like not the same as you. I think everybody has their own little way of doing things, right? But she has like a chart with all the star seeds on them, and then like she'll
Oh,
do
cool.
readings on my channel. And when people will ask her, they'll say if they want a galactic origins reading, she'll take a pendulum and she'll
Ah,
douse it, and whatever it comes up with is kind of what she is drawn to tell them what their star lineage is. Do you do something like that?
oh,
Is that
that's cool.
similar?
Yeah, but what I find, and I guess it's also, we attract certain clients too. So for me, a lot of my clients were in like vibrational alignment on a heart level. So I see a lot of my clients will actually have more than just one place. They might have like, just like we have favorite places to holiday or vacation, you'll have like your favorite star system as well. So yeah, it's kind of similar. I didn't realize that she did that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and do you think that like most of us have multiple, like do you think like I have, like I'm just giving an example, like I could have like Anunnaki, but I could also have Pleiadian or Syrian. Like
Yeah.
do we all have like or most of us, like I think I'm the same. I think you said you're 45. I'm the exact same age as you. I'm about to be 46
That's
January
right.
11th. But like yeah, so like I guess the people from our generation and the people kind of in our community that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and even in their 30s, like that's a large part of our community, right? Like, are most of
Yeah.
those people star seeds, and do they have multiple different makeups? Would you say?
Yeah, so I guess the way Spirit's showing me to explain it would be from, we understand the terminologies of indigo children, crystal child, rainbow child. So where I see some people have like a lot of different places that they've been. So like we would call them like a galactic traveler or adventurer, I guess. They're more from Blue Soul Group. So Blue Soul Group, for example, which is a bit more rare. So if we think about indigos being all these little beautiful indigo lights on the map of the world, and we would see multiple indigos across city and city. So sometimes they're more, we look at the personality, we look at their spirit being more kind of like warriors, like I'm not going to back down, I'm like going to put my feet in the ground. They might be more activists, whether this is like environmental or spiritual activists. So they will more sort of have had experiences or be connected to places, some of them more spiritual, but then others that are more kind of like got a bit more guts and grunt to it in terms of like a warrior energy. So when we look to Blue Soul Group, which is, that's my favorite, that's like where I resonate as well. Sometimes we're more likely to see blue orbs, we're more likely to see flashes out the corner of our eyes or golden orbs. When more than one Blue Soul Group get together. This is sometimes where we see beautiful golden orbs or UFOs and things show up, or blue orbs come in and visit that we'll see with our physical eyes. So when we look to Blue Soul Group, I actually feel like Dolores Cannon talked about, I think it was a blue flame, which I only heard about last year on some kind of like post or something. So I think we're actually or Blue Soul Group, I think we're talking about like the same thing, but just different terminology. So with them, I usually see Pleiadian, Syrian Lyran energy in Earth being in Elvish realms connected to Blue Soul Group. So if they've got three or more of those, like typically they're more Blue Soul Group. So Blue Soul Group are more kind of like the spiritual midwives. They're here to kind of like bridge that gap with the physical and spiritual reality, but they do feel the extreme homesickness because a lot of them, their first place or incarnation is not in our Andromeda galaxy. So they'll come and like have a little sample taste tester of different lifetimes, different places, a lot of them gathering healing knowledge and things. Many of Blue Soul Group, as well as some of the others, will also have hybrid DNA and genetics. So if I look to my little star map to do with DNA and genetics, and this I really go personally and tailor in a session because it's an hour talking individually just about like one person connected to do with this. But when we look to ET star genetics, there's a higher percentage of ET DNA compared to human DNA when I see mantis come up in a session. Now, this doesn't mean that they have mantis DNA, but mantis are kind of like the nursery overseer, or some of the genetic scientists that are working with DNA splicing or implanting or embedding. We see a higher incidence of twins in the bloodline families of people that have this one come up. It's literally freaky when you see like all of the interconnected things that come up. Sometimes Anunnaki might also come up in the same side of things, which if that comes up, sometimes we can see that there is, whether it's native, DNA as well, that's also physically connected there. We'll also see that means that there's wider range of gifts and things, because with having like ET or more like star origin DNA on a physical level, there's usually more spiritual or psychic gifts that stay intact. Whereas for a wide percentage of the population, I would say your audience, my audience is quite different from mainstream collective. So you guys are probably more on the bubble of having spiritual gifts or having spiritual epiphanies, downloads, dreams, things like that, or not being as programmable as what we see in the mainstream collective consciousness. What this also means is, if we've got some of these things going on too, we will be able to access these gifts much deeper. So it's kind of like when we address it or find out in these kinds of sessions, it's almost like a permission slip to work on it a little bit more, or to connect with the beings that we maybe had visitation from as children. And we're like, oh, that was just a weird dream. A lot of the time it's not. A lot of the time we are being taken on board ships. We are being taken to be taught about psychometry, which is, feeling an object, getting emanations, vibration, energy off of that. We're taught about telepathy. We're taught about telekinesis. We're taught how to work with healing. So if these are things that resonate with you guys, there's a high chance that you do have some of these perhaps maybe closed off or blocked experiences. And some of you guys might remember these things like super clear, like, okay, that wasn't a dream. There was I don't call it abduction experience, because when we look to the work of Ray Hernandez, who collated and, quizzed and put together, I guess you would call it a poll for a lot of ET experiences, I think it was about 80% of them were actually positive experiences. It's more the news, the media portray abduction to be this horrifying, almost like the movie Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton, like what he went through. And even Travis talks about, because I've been at events, there was one event here in Australia where he spoke too. And, he says like the Hollywood movie is not exactly how it went down in the physical. He believes that the beings from Alpha Centauri, or Centauri, depending on where you're from, actually saved his life, that he wouldn't be here physically if it wasn't from them taking him on board the craft. So there's a lot of negative lens programming that comes from the propaganda we see from Hollywood, and that a lot of this, I feel, is to also scare us to not looking into our connections that we have too. It's like, as a child, I would have been terrified by, horror, scary movies. I still don't like them because there's an energy or an egregore that you feel psychically, spiritually come in with those energies. It does call things in on an astral level. So that's why it's super important to clean, super important to check in with ourselves rather than externally.
That's a really good point. Yeah. What I was going to ask you is about it was about contact experiences. Like, are you finding that people are still having a lot of different contact? Like, or do you feel like it's lessened now, or do you think it's still as strong as it was? Like, for example, like seems like in the 90s, early 2000s, 70s, 80s, like a lot of people were having a lot of encounters with the Greys, and then beings from all over the world. But like, do you think the contact phenomena is still as prevalent today as it was in the past, or do you think it's even more so? Or is contact happening maybe in a way that we couldn't even imagine it, where maybe people are being contacted astrally or interdimensionally or like through their dreams, or all the above, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that question. That's such a great question, Rob. So when we look at it from what was happening around like 90s and that, we even see there was different things that happened in the early 2000s in terms of like, Twin Towers, that side of things that woke a lot of people up to reality, perhaps not being the one that we're programmed to see. So there was a lot more gray experiences, astral hijackings and things like that that went on where people didn't actually speak their spiritual authority. So we did see a lot more negative things happen, a lot more, I guess, uh, iconic agendas, parasitic agendas, things like that. I think we can recognize it a lot more now, or we can see shifts in people's eyes, like reptilian eyes, things like that, or like the black eyes, like the black-eyed children and things like that. But what I see is that the terms of I'm trying to cover the full topic of this because it's a huge one. So what I've sort of seen, I guess, having, experienced stuff all my life, but also working with a lot of people and knowing a lot of people in the field too, is that sometimes it's the men that will have more the physical contact. They might be, out in the forest and have like full blown physical 3D stuff happen. And this is sometimes because men won't always sort of believe things, and I'm sort of generalizing here. So sorry if anyone's offended, but they sometimes will be a little bit harder, like show me the facts, show me the data, show me the evidence. I need the numbers. I need something I can touch physically to believe this. So you'll sometimes see where they're spiritually woken up through physical contact. And then you have others that it's a little bit easier to get through. So they might have like more in the astral realms or dream realms. I myself have had it where I'm seeing it in a dream. I'm speaking out loud, but I don't realize I'm speaking out loud. Uh, like a partner hearing me speak light language, or, I've even had where I've been dreaming and I've spoken Spanish and I don't speak Spanish. So that's kind of weird. We were able to translate what I said later, which was saying, where is he? Where is he? Because I woke up describing an ET being that was more of like I would say a beautiful, like Mexican skin tone Pleiadian that was in a golden ship that I saw very much like this in my dream. I could feel it, and I woke up and this being is still there next to me. So
Wow.
sometimes you're experiencing things where they're there in a spiritual kind of etheric astral overlay, but you're also seeing that. So where I was saying before about we see things with the peripheral, with the cones and the rods in our eyes, and we see, excuse me, we see things as well with the third eye. So think about it as two cameras. So yeah, this is where it gets like very broad. So what I would say where we're shifting in terms of the astrology shifted and changed, we're not as dense as we were before. We're astrologically also waking up to the propaganda. We're waking up to that we are now in the age of Aquarius, which means that there's going to be new technology, new advances. We're more going to be seeing and perceiving things from a lighter spiritual perspective and path. We also just had the North Node, I think, shoot into Pisces, which is more again like our, I guess, our North Node, the collective. We're moving towards spiritual unfoldment, going with the flow. So I think we're just in the most exciting times, but I think contact is not in the physical Hollywood sense for the majority of people. I would say that's still a very small percentage, that physical contact. It's not to say we still can't be experiencing the spiritual, but we wake up with physical marks. So I myself, even as a teenager, would have what I would say feel like things extracted on a DNA level in terms of hybrid programs. So noticing that there was like snake bite type marks on my physical body that correlated with an experience. So sometimes you will have a physical body mark at the same time as having a spiritual or dream-like experience. I've had implants and things. I even had one that was like 4 centimeters wide show up like a UFO disc. So it's like 2 inches if we're converting it to American. And so that showed up in an X-ray. I was able to use an electrical device and zap it because at the time I was like, I don't want anything foreign in my body. and I was having a lot of like vision change, warped, amazing things happen at the same time. So I guess now, hindsight and being like quite a bit older since that happened, maybe I would leave it if I had something like that now. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, get it out of me. I don't know what this is. And then, yeah, shortly after, I was having incredible dreams where they were adjusting my vision, and helping me to see more on a multidimensional level. So I constantly believe that we're going through upgrades. I think who I am now is probably not who I'm going to be 10, 20 years from now. I'm going to have a different understanding or a broader depth of information. But yeah, I really try and look into things from what I experience. So, for example, when a lot of the cosmic disclosure, blue alien thing was happening, and my clients would ask me, oh, am I from there? And I'd be really honest and just say, I don't want to offend anyone, but I've never actually seen a being that looks like that. I've seen beautiful golden bird-like beings, but I've never seen, people joke now and call it the blue chicken. So this is where it is really important to stay authentic to what it is that we experience, to not be hijacked, because there is a lot of like hijacking that goes on in this field as well. But yeah, I just think it's going to get more and more interesting. We're seeing like things shift, even just looking back to the start of this year with what happened in the mall in Florida. And it's like the heat is definitely turning up and getting exciting and interesting.
Oh, wasn't that insane, right? That I did a show. I remember I did a show with James Rink, who passed now. Like, I don't know if you saw that James Rink passed, and then
Yeah, I
I
did.
did a
So
show with
sad.
him and Laura Eisenhower about that, and Drago Reed. We did one that was about you're talking about the Miami mall aliens,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
appeared in the mall.
yeah, yeah. So I think we're going to
Crazy,
see,
right?
sorry, what was that?
I said it was crazy, right?
Yeah,
It
it
was like
really was.
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, no. I definitely think it was. And I think, when we look for things that are perhaps like actually really happening, how many other times have you seen in any country, any city, any place, that amount of police presence show up for kids that were fighting with sticks? So already we know that the narrative is not what the mainstream media is telling us. Why are they making people, get their phones out, delete photos unless they actually saw something? So yeah, I can see missing time saying still no body cam footage released. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so interesting.
if there wasn't anything going on, they would have released the body cam footage. You know what I mean? Something,
Yeah,
and I've saw interviews with people, and I've saw people guys say, they said they saw aliens appear, whether it was a Project Bluebeam thing or whether it was
yeah,
real interdimensional aliens or whatever. Something happened, and they
yeah,
definitely don't want people to know about it. And it was crazy. It was like the movie Ghostbusters. They had like 20 cop cars came on the scene there. You know what I mean? Or more than
yeah.
that, it was like a whole city block full of cop cars showed up.
Oh,
It
it
was
was
it was
insane. So yeah, we're definitely living in exciting times. Oh, and I just noticed on time because I do have another show to prepare for after this as
yeah.
well. Did you want to jump into any questions or anything like that, Rob? Happy to like go where you feel.
I don't know if we have time to do readings because you have another show. Like like
Yeah,
I could
I
have
can
you
always
back.
come back.
Yeah, we could
Yeah,
do another show sometime soon if you want. Or
yeah, I'd
whenever.
love
Yeah,
that.
but I mean, yeah. Do you want to just tell people where they can find you and stuff like that? And yeah. I'll just have you back like whenever you want to come back.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'd love that. Maybe we do maybe after Christmas or something and do a show with readings. So yeah, I do psychic tarot readings. So looking into anything from 3D all the way up to the stuff that we're mentioning today. And I also do galactic readings. I also do holistic health sessions because I am a qualified kinesiologist. So I've also studied a bit of hypnotherapy and some other things that also go with it. Been doing that for over 25 years. So long experience working with getting to the root cause of a lot of issues that usually when clients come to me for health things, it's because they haven't been able to find answers for sometimes 10, 20 years in the mainstream side of things. But for the readings, I've got the discount code MAGIC20, which will save you 20%. Oh, thank you. I just see missing time. They're showing, my YouTube channel as well. So you'll be able to see more there. And for those that want to purchase a gift voucher for any loved ones, they're a little bit harder to find, but it should be the top left, I think, when you're on the bookings page or down the bottom of my website on the booking section. And you can use the discount code LOVEYOU as in LOVEU, for your loved ones as well, to save 20% on a gift voucher. But yeah, I'm in
And
person
I just
again.
want to real quick, you also have your website Soul Alchemy Potions too, where you make
Oh yeah.
like alchemical stuff as well. Like, did you want to just talk about that real quick and promote it?
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Let me just grab these beautiful potions. So I also have potions that I have. I've got 6 of them. You guys will be able to see over at Soul Alchemy Potions. So it was all centered around, I've got Heal a Broken Heart. Oops, I don't have my witch potion here. It might be in another place. So there's 6 of them. But anyway, there's different potions that are centered around working with manifestation for different things. Vision Quest is actually a lot of fun too. It helps to put you into a more relaxed state before going off to sleep. So with the potions, it's more kind of working with them as a ritual. So when we talk about working with quantum entanglement and about tuning into the quantum potential of what it is that we do want to anchor, having that beautiful potion, that cup of herbal tea, is a great way on a physical level to anchor it and to charge that on a physical level. Hold that potion within and visualize the outcome, the feeling, the emotion, and really invoke that as much as you can, and doing it repetitively. We're actually programming our little beautiful water-filled body, because we know that water, emotion programs in water, like Dr. Emoto has been able to scientifically prove. So we're actually programming in these feelings, these chemical emotions in the body, and we're experiencing it as though it's happening now. And do that and practice that enough, and then that's when we see it come into the physical, rather than trying to push and slave away from the 3D physical reality. So yeah, I also have that on my channel as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I always enjoy having you on the show. And like I said, I'm going to contact you here in the next day or two, and we can definitely do a show. I'd love to have you back on to do a reading show. That would be great.
Yeah,
like
let's do
I have
that.
different psychics. Yeah, I have different. Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
No, I'd love to do a personal reading for you where we actually go in depth and have a look in an hour session, and I'll be able to tell you a bit more. And we'll get some different lighting so it's a little bit easier to see as well. And sometimes there's things that come up that we don't necessarily want to disclose or talk about, with the public. So we'll be able to sort of keep that where I can go deeper in spiritual depth without worrying about talking about certain things, because certain people are targeted individuals or have what I would say eyes on them or eyes on the channel and things too. So I do feel there's a little bit of, we need to be careful about like the depth of what we say around things that are coming up. So I can't wait to do that for you.
That'd be great. All right. Well, thank you so much, and I'll be in touch. And yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. On everybody that tuned
Thanks,
in on
everyone.
Solreta's channel and my channel. And yeah, thank you, Solreta. Have a nice night, everyone.